Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Theo, and I will be leading this mindfulness broadcast this morning. Happy Friday. It's a beautiful day where I am. I hope it's a beautiful day where you are. Today, I wanted to talk about effortlessness. I'm going to say that word again because it seems like hard to get out. Effortlessness. Um, And the reason this topic came up is because for those of you who attended the mindfulness masterclass on Wednesday, we talked about different types of change and how to navigate change. And just as a reminder, mindfulness is really just a way, from my point of view, to help us better relate to our own experience. So the way that I relate to change, the way that I relate to my family, the way that I relate to my work, mindfulness is this meta skill that allows me to really start to use what I think of as the power of awareness to start to improve how I relate to all of these different things in my life. And so when we think of the two types of change that we talked about on Wednesday, change that visits us without our permission on the one hand, and then change that we try to initiate in order to gain some kind of a better version of our life. Like if I could just change this thing, I'd be so much happier. Or happiness is just around the corner. I just need to tweak these little aspects of my life. Some of that change is great and necessary, and some of that change is kind of an illusion that we all have, right? One example that comes to mind for me actually just happened this morning because I have twin redheads, and they have this beautiful red curly hair. And this morning, one of them decided that she wanted to straighten her hair, and it was really important because it's important to straighten your hair before you go to school, apparently. Even though her hair is the envy of everyone that we meet, she wants it to be straight, right? And we couldn't find the straightening iron, and so there was this drama that ensued. But it just brought the point home for me, right? It's like we are really kind of programmed in some sense, evolutionarily, to want something different than what we have, to go out in the world and find something that we can get or something we can change. And the idea really is like we're going to get satisfaction out of this. Yeah. And in the mindfulness framework, these kind of forces are often referred to as, on the one hand, craving, and on the other hand, aversion. So I'm moving towards something I want, I'm moving away from something I don't want, and it leads to suffering. Yeah, it leads to dissatisfaction. And I can really look back at my own life and think like, oh, I wanted this thing to happen, and then it happened, and then it didn't turn out to make my life as overjoyous as I might have thought it would be. Yeah. Um, and what all those changes require is effort. Yeah. So I need to put a lot of effort into all these things. And I looked up the word effort just to make sure that I was understanding effort properly. It's always nice to go back to the dictionary. So effort is defined as a vigorous or determined attempt or a force exerted in a process. And so, if we're moving towards effortlessness, what we're attempting to do is harness this mindfulness practice that we have in order to embrace something that's often referred to as equanimity. So, what equanimity is really is just being okay with what is, just being at peace with our own experience, regardless of what our preferences might be. So sometimes we think of these as, like I said, craving or aversion. Some people have gotten even simpler and just thought of it as the yum yuck. So, yum, I'm going towards the yum and I'm trying to avoid the yuck. So, equanimity is just the idea of like, can I just be with things as they are? And when we talk about it in terms of soft skills, which we work with a lot at Empower, we're often talking about something called the circle of control. So, what are the things that I control and what are the things that I don't control? And one simple way to understand effortlessness versus effort, or even going further, going into something that is sometimes called wise effort, is to ask myself the question, how much energy am I spending trying to change things that I don't control? And what does that look like in my life right now? What does that look like in my work life? What does that look like in my personal life? And how can I improve the relationship I have with things as they are? And there's a lot of uh, neurological correlates, you could call them, to this, because what I find, and this is a verb that I've come across in mindfulness communities, it's called selfing. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of this term, selfing, the verb selfing. Um, and when we talk about that in terms of like brain science, we're actually talking about something called the default mode network, which I've spoken about in previous classes, which is when you do these brain scans of people just kind of having these constant ruminations, their normal thinking patterns, there's a part of the brain that gets activated. And this is happening when we are talking to ourselves about ourselves, right? So I'm thinking about myself, I'm thinking about the past, I'm thinking about the future. Oh, I wish I did that. Oh, I'm worried about that. And so the default mode network gets lessened as we practice mindfulness over time. And that's a good thing because all the research points to people who are more content, less neurotic, less prone to depression and anxiety. Um, so when we talk about effortlessness, what we're talking about is trying to sit back and let go of some of that selfing, some of that desire to initiate change that we think is going to make everything perfect. Okay, what else do I want to talk about here? Um, well, I want to talk about practice before we get into the practice that we're going to do today. And there's two ways that I find that we can move towards effortlessness in our practice. The first is to let go of the idea that there is such a thing as a good meditator or a bad meditator, or a good mindfulness practitioner and a bad mindfulness practitioner. So many people I find when they start their practice come to this conclusion like, I'm just not very good at meditating. I just sit down and I'm just like, oh my God, the thoughts start up and it's just constant, you know? And that is just what it looks like to start a meditation practice. That's just what happens when we start to observe the nature of our minds, which are oftentimes just so out of control. And so I just invite you to consider the idea that that's natural and that over time things can shift and do shift if we put what we might think of as wise effort into gaining a little foothold, maybe go on a weekend meditation retreat or something like that. The second aspect of our practice that can get kind of derailed by what we might call striving or effort that's pointed towards change rather than allowing things to be as they are is when we feel like we're really trying to get to that place of peace and serenity every time we sit down to have some mindfulness practice. Um, and I've experienced this so much where it's like I'll sit down and all I'm doing is just thinking about stuff, all, like I'm really in my agenda. I'm really in the selfing. And to allow ourselves a little space to be okay with having 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever time you allot for your mindfulness practice, to be just you in your head and just being okay with that, and knowing that there's going to be different experiences when we do our practice, but it's still good. It's still good to sit down and do this. So I want to have us all do a practice where we get to have a little effortlessness to start our Friday mornings. And so what I'm going to invite you to do is to find yourself a comfortable position, maybe move your body back and forth, left and right. And just get yourself settled. If you want to take a deep breath, that's great. I'd invite you to close your eyes. And then what I'd like you to do is I would like you to tense your body right now. Just tense your muscles, tense your face, tense your fists, maybe clench your jaw. Really feel into that, like striving, I want to change something, effort. And then let go. Just release all of that. And I'm going to give you permission right now to not do anything, to just observe. So you're a human. Most likely you're sitting down, and there are sensations in the body that you might notice. You might be hearing things wherever you are. You might be hearing my voice. You might be hearing sounds outside of the room. You might be experiencing thoughts. You might be planning your day. You might be remembering something. And maybe as those thoughts arise, they create sensations in your body. There's nothing that you need to do. It's just observing things as they are. Relaxing into effortlessness. Just being with what is in this moment as a practice. You might notice your breath. You might notice the pressure underneath you, holding you stable. There's no agenda. Notice if there's any thought or inclination for something to change, for something to be different than it is in this moment. Mm, where can you sense that? Is it in your body? Is it in the form of a thought? Is there a restlessness? And just notice it. You don't need to do anything about it, just notice. And now I'm going to invite you to just slowly return to your space. You can move your body a little bit. If it's helpful, stretch out your arms, come back into your room, and just notice if there was any way that you were able to get a little bit of distance between yourself and this constant need to put effort towards some change or desired outcome. And if so, that's something to celebrate. And hopefully we can build upon that as we move forward. So, thank you for being with me. I'm wishing you a lovely Friday and a lovely weekend. Happy to stay if anybody has any comments or questions. I hope this has been useful, and thanks for your time.